Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University.
When we think of Toru Dutt, the first poem that always comes to mind is, of course, the Casuarina tree. I hope you found time to listen to it and to read the poem. Let's now move on to another of her favorite famous poems, which is called Sita. We are moving from nature to mythology. The poem is called Sita. Who Sita is, I don't have to describe to you. But this poem is about storytelling. So you have a mother who is narrating stories, a story maybe in this poem, to her kids. How old the kids are, we don't know, but wide open eyes, so maybe they are listening to it for the first time. My dear students, when you think of mythological stories, do you remember when you first heard of them or when you read them? Maybe tales for children, tales from the Ramayana, from the Mahabharata, maybe your grandmother, maybe your mom, maybe some older sibling told you some story. And I'm sure each one of you do have a favorite character. It could be anyone. For me, when I think of the Mahabharata, it's probably sometimes Karna. When I think of the Ramayana, I think there are so many. But yeah, there are some not so famous, not so well-known characters who come to our mind. And then we think of them with a great deal of affection, memory, nostalgia, depending on when we heard the story first. Anyway, let me come to the poem and read to you Sita by Toru Dutt. 3 happy children in a darkened room. What do they gaze on with wide open eyes? A dense, dense forest where no sunbeam pries, and in its center a cleared spot. There bloom gigantic flowers on creepers that embrace tall trees. There, in a quiet, lucid lake, the wild swans glide. There, whirring from the brake, the peacock springs. There, herds of wild deer race. There, patches gleam with yellow waving grain. There, blue smoke from strange altars rises light. There dwells in peace the poet anchorite. Let's look at the poem. We are in a room, probably it says a darkened room. You know, we have what are called bedtime stories. So the mother maybe is telling a story to her children when they are ready to fall asleep. 3 happy children in a darkened room. And the mother probably is a very good storyteller. I love storytellers who can create the scene so beautifully for you that you imagine that you are there. So what do they gaze on with wide open eyes? So the eyes are open, wide. Actually, they should be falling asleep. Gradually, the eyes should be shutting down. But no, their eyes are wide open and they're looking at something. They are in a darkened room. But what do they see? Probably what the mother describes. A dense, dense forest where no sunbeam pries, and in its center, a cleared spot. Come on, think of a jungle, think of a forest, whether you've been to one or not. You've read about it. You've seen it probably on your TV, in movies maybe. Think of a forest where the trees grow so close together that no sunbeam reaches down. And what else do you see there? They bloom gigantic, but there is a cleared spot because we're coming to an hermitage, you know, where the rishis lived. So all around us, we have trees, we have the forest, maybe we have wild animals. She's going to describe that too for us. But all around that, but in the center, there is a clearing, right? Where you have the huts, the cottages, or where the rishi munis live, where the ashram is there probably, where the students come to study. So in its center, a cleared spot. There bloom gigantic flowers on creepers that embrace tall trees. Remember the casuarina tree? Remember the python-like going around, they embrace the trunk? Almost the same image here. On creepers that embrace tall trees. So even the flowers are huge. There, In a quiet, lucid lake, I think it should be white, the white swans glide, not while, a typo, the white swans glide. So the lake is peaceful, right? It's not stormy there, so the water is not. So even the lake is peaceful, lucid, clear. And there you have the white swans. They seem to be gliding. If you've seen swans, if you've seen duck, you sometimes think, are they moving at all? Because it's so smooth. There, whirring from the break, the peacock springs. Then you have the bush there. And then suddenly with a sound, if you see, the peacock is a big bird, right? So when the peacock flies, when it comes out of the bushes, there would be the sound. The break here refers to the bushes there. The peacock springs. What else do you see there? Herds of wild deer. The deer, of course, runs very fast, so racing. Their patches gleam with yellow waving grain. So you have the forest, you have the clearing, you have the fields probably, where you have rice growing, the grain. Naturally, now they are ready for harvest, so they've become yellow, or they could be yellow because of the sunlight falling on it. There, blue smoke from strange altars rises light. Whenever we think of away from the city, right? When you think of a rural area probably, or you think of a forest area, you see the smoke rising up, right? Because the fires are burning. So you see that strange altars, because prayers are being done there. Maybe some kind of a havan is going there. Maybe some kind of a yagna is going on. But we don't understand that. We are away from that, and we are talking something of long, long ago. The mother's doing it. Don't forget that. We are in that darkened room, and there are 3 kids who are listening to this story. And we are also, in a way, peeping into that room and experiencing what the kids are experiencing when the mother is telling a story. And there dwells in peace the poet anchorite, right? The ancient poet. Who are we talking about? The writer of the Ramayana. We are talking about that great rishi. We are talking about Valmiki. And how do we know all this? The mother is telling a story, remember, to her 3 children when it's probably time for them to go to sleep. What happens next? But who is this fair lady? Not in vain she weeps, for lo, at every tear she sheds, tears from 3 pairs of young eyes fall amain, and bowed in sorrow are the 3 young heads. It's an old, old story, and the lay which has evoked sad Sita from the past is by a mother sung. 'Tis hushed at last, and melts the picture from their sight away. Yet shall they dream of it until the day. When shall those children by their mother's side gather, ah me, as erst at eventide? Let's go back to the story. We are talking about Sita. Remember, the title of the poem itself is Sita. So Sita is weeping. Think of it, the number of times that Sita has had to face pain, sorrow, solitude, loneliness. Maybe when she was waiting for Rama to come and rescue her. Maybe when she was still waiting to give birth to Lava and Kusha. You can think of every, or even earlier, even before Ram came and picked up the bow, even before that. But here, who is this fair lady? Not in vain she weeps. When someone shares your sorrow, that sorrow gets reduced. Not in vain she weeps, for lo, at every tear she sheds, tears from 3 pairs of young eyes fall amain. So the mother is telling the story. She's telling us how sad Sita was. And as the mother describes, the mother's a good storyteller, I've already told you. As the mother describes the sorrow of Sita and the tears that she sheds, tears are not in vain. Why? Because these kids, 3 pairs of young eyes, tears roll down. And bowed in sorrow are the 3 young heads. They're not looking up, they're not excited, they're not happy, they are sad because Sita is sad. And mom has succeeded in creating the tragic feeling that Sita was undergoing. It's an old story. I'm talking of the Ramayana. When was it written? 2000, 3000, 4000. We have all sorts of theories abounding, but very old. Not written yesterday. It's an old story, and the lay which has evoked sad Sita from the past is by a mother sung. She's not telling the story, she's singing the story. That makes it so much more touching, more painful, more sorrowful, because remember, music is something that touches us to the heart. And in music, it's not just the words of the song, it is the tune, the tone maybe of the song. So, from the past, the mother is singing of the sorrow of Sita. So the children too are shedding tears, and their heads are bowed in sorrow. 'Tis hushed at last, and melts the picture from their sight away. This line has troubled readers, critics. Why is it hushed? Has the mother stopped telling the story? Or maybe somebody has come in, maybe the father, that is the husband of the mother, or maybe it's a grandparent, somebody who says, now enough, ab sone jao, time for you to go to bed. What is that hush? Or is the mother so sorrow-stricken in telling us the story of Sita that she's not able to continue? It is hushed at last. The story is stopped and melts the picture from their sight away. When somebody is telling you a story, it's there, the mental image. And then when somebody stops telling you the story, what happens, right? So, and melts the picture from their sight away. Yet shall they dream of it until the day. The story is over. They've fallen asleep. That is why probably there's silence, there's hushed. But then, even as they are sleeping, right? And you all know the power of dreams, right? Dreams, happy dreams, nightmares, sometimes they stay with us. And sometimes we hope that will immediately end and we'll wake up. And how angry we are when a good dream is suddenly woken up, is suddenly stopped because the alarm bell goes off. You know all that, right? But here, as they fall asleep, as the story is hushed, they will probably dream till it is daytime. The mother is telling a story to kids. When shall those children by their mother's side gather, me, as erst, as earlier, at eventide? After all, we all grow out of that storytelling and story listening to age. So in a sense, the poem nostalgically thinks of the days that are no more, right? Now the children have grown up. They've probably gone away. Is it possible for us to go back to childhood? Every poem of Toru Dutt, my dear students, has an element of sorrow in it. I've already told you in an earlier lecture about how she lost her siblings, how she herself was stricken with TB, how she was so unhappy when they were away in France and England, how they came back to India and were still not happy because bustling Calcutta did not suit them at all with its noise and crowd and pollution and what have you. So in a sense, Toru Dutt's short life was one of sorrow. So this poem too ends in a kind of sad note. I want you to look at the poem also to see the kind of punctuation marks that she uses. If you see the question marks here, or if you go on to the second verse and you see the exclamation mark, it's almost as if it's conversation. You know, when we speak, the tone we use, probably the rising and falling tone that we use, we know that you need punctuation marks. It is, in a sense, a combination of nature and culture. It's also probably slightly personal when you think of who hushes the story. A short poem, but a poem beautifully explaining to us the importance of storytelling. I hope you enjoyed this simple poem, and do pick up her collections of poems, which she calls Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. That is the collection. Read some more poems. They are very simple, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them to a great extent. So that was our introduction to one of the earliest poets of Indian writing in English.
स्वाध्यायः